Good afternoon, everybody. I am Terry Murphy, your host for the RISMedia webinar today, and this one is terrific. It's on listing. We so appreciate your being on this call today, and I am personally delighted to be your moderator for this webinar series. And today's session is focused on listings and winning those listings every time. Almost every one of the RISMedia webinars is always loaded with great information and experts, and today's session is truly not different. It's a #1 priority for successful brokerages today. If you want to dominate your market, we need new and innovative strategies and systems. We need to create strong differentiation. And not only that, but to provide really fresh and truly relevant, valuable information and data that makes some kind of resonance and connection with that seller. And this session really delivers. And our panelists share their strategies and the opportunities there. And I just want to let you know that there are options out there for consumers to get their property sold, and brokers and leaders are looking for ways and systems to help their agents grow their businesses and to help centralize all those resources and opportunities that companies offer. So ultimately, cutting-edge platforms and specific services really help create a true better experience for those clients and customers while helping them streamline with systems that build and bridge that gap for relationships, especially in the incubation process. So let's get started. We've got a couple of housekeeping issues. If you're just joining us, I'm Terry Murphy, and we want to let you know that we'll be recording this great content, so our listeners are muted. But if you have a specific question for any of our guests, or you want a little bit more information, go ahead and look at your control panel dashboard and go to the questions area and type in your question. And then throughout the webinar, we'll be monitoring those questions during and again after our panelists present. And so if you have a question for our panelists or from our sponsor for this session, which happens to be BuySide, we have Alyssa Harper with us. She's the Vice President of Growth for BuySide. Just type in their name and we'll be sure that we answer your questions. So here's another thing. Write this down. Stay till the end because we have a boatload of bonus gifts that you're going to be able to get. So take good notes and know that RISMedia does record these calls, and we'll send you the link to the recording so you can go back and review because there's lots of really good information. And I want you to really feel free to be interactive and share with us your questions and some comments. And speaking of our sponsor today, let me give you an overview. We have from BuySide, Alyssa Harper. She's the VP of Growth, and she's here to share with us some of their powerful innovations that BuySide actually supports that whole listing acquisition. It's so exciting. And we so appreciate their support for our programs and our industry. Hello, Alyssa.
Hi there, Terry. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and I just want to give you a little overview of our what's to come. We've got Tony Floyd. Tony serves as the Chief Innovation Officer for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and he's in Georgia Properties, and they're located in the greater Atlanta area. Hello, Tony.
My pleasure to be here.
We look so forward to hearing from you as well. And I also want to say a quick hello to our other panelists, Mark Johnson from JP & Associate Realtors out in the Texas area.
Welcome. So glad to be here and excited to share and hear some great questions from this amazing audience.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've had the honor and the pleasure and the blessing to speak to both of these people in advance. And we really appreciate your sharing these amazing innovations and strategies that these people are going to discover right there for them. And Alyssa, I want to have you share with us how BuySide is really helping us get more listings. Thank you for being such a generous sponsor. As you know, real estate's been around for a long time, and listing is one of my favorite ways to be of service in the business. And the sellers have heard it all. They're inundated with all kinds of data, but no one really matriculates that data like BuySide. Tell us a little bit about what BuySide does to help us get more listings.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Terry. We're really thrilled to be participating in this webinar. As you shared, I mean, gaining listings is really critical for brokerages to dominate their marketplace. I've been in the real estate tech game for about 15 years now, and everything I've learned along the way supports that dominating with listings is key. So I'm excited to hear the feedback from Tony and from Mark. And just to provide a little background and a little context for the folks that are on the call, I want to share a quick overview of kind of what Buyside does and how it's helping support brokerages like JP and Associates, like Berkshire Hathaway Georgia, and about 75 of the other large brokerage firms in the country. Buyside essentially works with brokerage firms to aggregate their buyer data from all different sources online. This means buyers that are viewing properties on their brokerage website, all the way to buyer activity that's happening on the portals like Zillow and Trulia, buyers that are out touring properties with their agents using applications like ShowingTime and CSS. We collect all that valuable buyer information and we put it to use for the brokerage in three really distinct ways. One, to help them capture additional seller leads from their brokerage and agent websites. Two, in a listing presentation report to really help their agents differentiate themselves and dominate listing presentations. And then lastly, on the back end of Buyside, to match more of those listings to their buyers in-house so that they're closing more transaction sides quicker. So those are really the three main benefit areas of Buyside. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm anxious to get to some feedback from Mark and Tony. One other interesting data point that I'll share with you guys, though, that I think is really relevant to today's conversation, is a lot of the data and trends that we're seeing in the marketplace today. This was actually from Zillow Group's recent Consumer Housing Trends report, and they surveyed tens of thousands of consumers who are out there selling their homes today, and they ranked what was most important to today's seller when they're choosing an agent to list their home. And what was really interesting is that the number one most important criteria that sellers were interested in was, do you have access to interested buyers? So I think that was really fascinating. They ranked this above, contract negotiations, listing photography. All of those things were very important criteria to today's homeowners. But the most important one in selecting an agent was, do you have access to interested buyers? And that's really at the heart of what Buyside does, is going out and pulling in all that valuable buyer information to help brokerages and their agents show and really demonstrate to sellers what the real-time buyer demand is in their marketplace, and to use that as a tool to help them secure new listings. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Mark.
I just want to add there that what I think I would like to, as a practitioner, I would like to say that one of the strongest and most positive aspects of what Buyside does is that it gives the credibility to that agent that they do have access to specific buyers. It actually gives the data that's very transparent. I think that's an important point.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned that, Terry. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the age-old sayings in real estate is, yes, we have buyers. Buyside allows brokerages and their agents to really prove that and back it up with data and prove that they got specific buyers that are interested in that specific home. So I think that's really powerful, and I'm excited to hear how Mark and Tony have used that within their own firms.
Well, this is great. So I really appreciate Buyside being our sponsor today, and I'd like to talk about how this really helps us. Especially, I know we're going to go back to that slide when we get into talking to Tony himself. So Tony, you serve as the Chief Innovation Officer for Berkshire Hathaway Homes with 1,700 agents in the Metro Atlanta and North Georgia area. It's interesting that you, after speaking with you about your strong innovation strategies and your operationalization of strategic revenue generation programs, I think this is critical to giving some new nuances to real estate today, and how that whole presentation has changed because there's different strategies to engage. And I'd like to welcome you to the call and share with us.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here again. And we have done an awful lot of good things over the years. I would say that about 10 years ago, we made the strategic decision to really become focused on listings and become a listing company. And over time, we've developed a lot of systems and tools and approaches to that. And we became the #1 company in homes sold for Metro Atlanta, Greater Metro Atlanta, and have been so for the last 8 years or so. So it's actually worked very well for us, and we certainly believe very, very strongly in listings as a focus for our associates and the betterment of their careers. And one of the things that we actually did was we developed a methodology, and we called it the Advanced Property Marketing System. And we went outside the industry, we looked within the industry, and we created something that, we felt, in the end, achieved the best result for the client. And that's really what this is all about, is delivering value to the client and a great experience along the way. And so we have a 5-step process. We use the steps of assess, design, implement, measure, and optimize. So we essentially assess the property, the market, and the competition, and we figure out, exactly what's going on there with a lot of metrics. Buy side is a component of that, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then we design a winning value proposition and the story of the property that we believe will be the best to take to the market. And that actually takes more time up front in those 2 stages. But when we go to the market and we implement our value proposition, we have a much better chance of achieving the goal of the client. And then, things change. So we measure exactly what's going on with competition, with our marketing, and then we optimize to make improvements along the way. And we just continue to do that until the property sells and the client achieves what they want to achieve. And so that process has worked extremely well for us. We've evolved it a lot over the years, and we have added, many tools and technology components to it. Some examples. So for example, we spent a lot of energy in figuring out how to expose the property that's better than other people. So we have 40,000 plus websites, and it doesn't take our agents very long to show someone that, we can put them on the Wall Street Journal's network, for example, globally with any price point. And most other competitors who do that might do it in a high-end luxury $1 million plus environment or not at all. If we want to expose people to China, for example, we have a partnership with Juwai and Tencent, and that's an important second component because the Tencent network allows us to reach 900 million people in China. And, you can say you expose your properties to China, but actually reaching more people and then doing it with translation, this professional translation, and handling people with people who actually speak Chinese and fostering those leads back to the agents makes a big difference. We do a lot with Zillow. We've had a strategic partnership with Zillow for years and years. And when Zillow videos, for example, return your property in the highest search results, we developed a big program. We had almost half of our listings with Zillow videos. We completely dominated the Zillow search results in our market. And we just announced the Zillow 3D program with a similar approach. So now we're basically doing for all of our new listings a Zillow 3D tour. And we're going to continue to really dominate the listing searches on Zillow, which is in our market still the #1 real estate website with about 65% of the eyeballs. So all those things matter, and what we teach the agents to do is to not get caught in the Me Too trap where everything sounds similar. You have to be very good at communicating your differentiation. And it doesn't take too many of these examples to make that clear to the client in a listing presentation that we are different, we are better, and we can achieve something that's unique for them. I would tell you that I mentioned the story of the property. I would tell you that resonates incredibly well with sellers in listing conversations. And we have tools, for example, that really you're essentially interviewing the seller and asking them about their experiences and what they believe is unique and interesting about that property. And at the same time, you're actually asking them about things they think might be challenges. And they're very quick to tell you those as well. So it really helps you develop the story based on their knowledge. And along the way, you make an emotional connection, which is obviously very important when you're trying to win a listing from someone. You have to not only have wonderful technology and all these great capabilities, you have to connect with people. And the process that we've developed really helps do that. I'll give you one more example that's helped us a lot. Everybody says they're a great negotiator. And when I think anybody interviews any agent, they're going to tell them what a great negotiator they are. And what we always try to get them to say is, well, give me an example of a specific negotiating tactic or technique that you're going to use. And usually there's not a very good answer coming back from the agent who's competing for the listing. So we have a whole series of education that we do around negotiation techniques. I'll give you an example, one we call the holdback. So if you speak to your seller and you both decide, here are some things that we're willing to give up. It might be a time frame. It might be certain things in the property itself. It might be, a range of different options. But if you do that up front and you're planning for that and you negotiate where you give up something you were already planning to give up, everybody's happy on your end of the equation. And the sellers in a listing presentation really gravitate to that sort of conversation very, very well. And they see that you're different and you're better in that respect. I'll tell you a couple other things. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the clarification of negotiation is so important. We've actually written a New York Times bestseller on negotiating at US Learning, and I will tell you that the agent thinks that splitting the difference is the big deal, and that is such an important component of the negotiation process. And I find it just, I'm elated to know that your agents are understanding how to quick speak and improve their presentation skills, because you can use technology all day long, but if you can't communicate it and can't bridge that gap to the relationship, it really doesn't do you any good. So congratulations on smart training.
Well, thank you. That has worked very well for us. I'll tell you, another thing that's worked really well for us is our mega open houses. We don't just do open houses, we do very large events, 300 to 500 open houses. But it's not a traditional open house. We really focus on the pre-event marketing and the post-event marketing in the geographic area around the actual open house itself. And then we cover that with a tremendous amount of advertising that we do as a company. And what ends up happening is that is one of the best ways to attract buyers. We get hundreds, literally, of people that come to individual open houses. So we'll get 3,000, 3,500 people who show up across the metro area every month when we do these things. And then the agents that are working the turf in the local area and the community around the open house, they're attracting new buyers, new listing opportunities, and it is absolutely one of the best things that we've ever done, and we've taken it to a whole new level. Now, one of the things we actually use there is the buy-side DMA, which we'll talk about in a second. But we use buy-sides data to drop off around the open house, and then we have it at the open house to show the actual real-time buyers that are looking for properties like that in that local area. And that's very, very powerful information.
I'd like to point out something that you've said, and especially to all of our attendees. I hope you're hearing that we are not automating and abdicating. It's one of the things that we talk about a lot at our own company, and that is that you use that tool, but you still need to connect. And you talk about making that emotional connection, and face-to-face is most immediate and the most transparent way to do that. And I really believe that an open house event is not about the actual open house, but like you said, the pre-event and the post-event opportunities to connect. I'll bet that has really resonated, not only to position you, but to pretty much look like you own the area. That's how many are doing.
Absolutely. It's the best geographic farming strategy that I've ever seen, if done properly. If you treat it like just an open house, it will be just an open house. But if you do the pre-event marketing, we even hold private events for the local neighbors to have a preview, and all the actual walking the neighborhood, and we also have a big social media campaign that we run at the same time. So we're doing geofencing in the neighborhood around the actual property very aggressively in Facebook and Instagram and Google and even Waze. Waze has actually turned out to be far more successful for us than we really thought it would be, to be honest.
Really?
But
how are you using Waze? That's interesting.
So when you do ads on Waze with both flags or pins of the property itself, when people are navigating around or searching, they see pop-up ads and things like that. So we'll typically get well over 100 people that see it on Waze and navigate to an open house on one of these mega open house weekends just using Waze. And so that's been far more successful than we really even thought it would be. So, I mean, the Facebook and Instagram and Google ads are great. That little trick on the Google ads, by inputting the client's email and actually placing ads in the Google Display Network, we actually follow the client around, and they see the ad of their own property, which gives them some, happiness about what's going on in the marketing that you're actually doing for them. So lots of little things like that go along with these things that really help a lot.
That's amazing. That's terrific. I mean, talk about refreshment. That's really incredible. So you talked about the the buyer market analysis?
Yeah, so we love the BMA. Alyssa will quickly tell you our agents love the buyer market analysis, and as evidenced by the numbers here, we've printed off literally 7,300 buyer market analysis reports in 2018, and the way that works is you basically show home values and things like that, but you're showing real buyer data. There's a heat map, there's a buyer funnel that shows starting with 162 million people searching on our networks down to people searching in that specific local area within a short distance or a radius, and the bedroom and bath configuration and price point configuration of that particular property. And there's a lot of people searching. These numbers are big because we really work that network effect to get them there. And then we actually show what we call featured buyers, and these are people that are in our system with saved searches where we actually have their contact information in that local area. So you're literally able to show these are real-time buyers looking in that specific area for a property very much like yours. And so when we do a big mega open house event, or we go on a listing presentation, we bring this report with us, and not only we're able to just talk about buyers, we're actually able to show them a large number of actual buyers looking for a property just like theirs right now. And in the pre-event and post-event marketing around the big mega open house events, again, before and after, we're dropping these things off to people's houses around them, and that is by far the absolute best tool that we've ever had that helps us attract more buyers and helps us attract more listings around mega open house events. So it has been fabulous for us. Agents love it.
I would imagine.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, go ahead, Alyssa.
I'll just jump in real quickly here, Terry. So that's fantastic, Tony. I'm happy to report that you guys are #1 across the entire buy-side network in terms of BMA usage. So Tony, in a moment here, I'd love to get some feedback from you on kind of how you've gone about rolling that out to your agents and training them to use it so effectively. One other thing that I'd like to touch on, because I know that the Mega Open House campaign has been extremely successful for you guys. Tony, maybe talk a little bit about how you guys are capturing new buyer leads through those open houses that you're doing, and then how that creates a feedback loop into buy side to help further demonstrate your buyer reach in the market.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways that we do that. The buy side buyer market analysis, the print version I just described, shows all this wonderful data, but they also have an online version as well. So we aggressively, send out around the open houses, and we, share on all of our agent websites the link to the buy side data, and it'll show home value estimates. And here's a little example. We were very early as a brokerage to do home value estimates, and we've done those for 5 or 6 years now. And so we started off with just showing one home value estimate. And frankly, some of the clients and the agents got mad at us because it was wrong. We all know how this works. And one of the things buy side does, which actually works extremely well, is we're showing 3 different value estimates and then a price range around it. And you basically get a sense that, yes, these are estimates, but again, it's not the estimate, and that's really what you want the agent to help you do. And so buy-side's done a great job with the framing around the valuation estimates to really point them back to the agent to get the best estimate that you can in the marketplace. And that has worked extremely well for us. So we leverage that in listing appointments, we leverage that in big mega open house events, and that is one way that we attract buyers. In the mega open house events, we attract buyers in a variety of different ways just from all the advertising we do. We're advertising on Zillow, we're doing heavy social media. The agents in the local area are really flooding the neighborhood with, flyers, postcards. They're actually getting out of walking around and knocking on doors and dropping things off. They have often a lot of signs, balloons, directionals. We've got some who even do food trucks. We've got a number of agents who will just do all these things, and they'll have over 100 people come to their mega open house event from that local neighborhood. And when you have that many people coming in the door, and you become the go-to person, and anybody else who has a home that they're thinking about listing, is quickly going to go to that agent because they see what they're doing and they want that. Frankly, the ones who are listing with somebody else come over and they go, well, why the heck is my agent not doing that?
Exactly.
So that works out extremely well. So then they're capturing. We use Spacio for registrations at all these events, and we're capturing all the buyer leads that way. And we do a lot of work back and forth with Spacio and buy side as well to follow up and send home value estimates and online buyer market analysis tools to them and things like that. So that works extremely well to capture the buyer side.
Tony, just for those listeners who may not be familiar with Spacio, will you spell it and give them a little idea what that is?
Yeah, Spacio is a paperless open house registration tool, and all of this is fully integrated. So, someone comes and registers, they capture all their information. We ask very specific questions for things like mortgage because that's very important to us in our business. And so we capture a lot of mortgage opportunities that way. We actually have some integration with our mortgage platform, so those leads go directly and get followed up with our call center and a mortgage company. So that works really well. Spacio generates those leads directly to the agent's CRM, and so they're ensured that it all gets followed up on very quickly and gets into their drip campaigns and their engagement plans going forward. So it truly automates everything and gives the client who's there, just gives you a very different perception than someone, who's got a piece of paper laying out there. This looks good, feels good, and it gives the sellers a better sense of security that you're capturing the contact information and the information about everybody who stepped in their property. So that works really well. I'd say one of the little tricks that helps us with the buy-side BMA, because you have to have a lot of information flowing in there to have buyer activity that looks good. You need numbers. So the integration between buy-side and our website with all the saved searches that we do, our Alexa platform that we push out, all the saved searches that people do when they try a home value estimate or do a search on our Alexa Atlanta real estate skill, and Spacio, when they register for all these open houses, all of those create saved searches and drive the buyer numbers in buy side. And that's one of the reasons we have such large numbers of featured buyers and very specific buyers in the local market. So that network effect of all of this working together works really well for us.
And that's what I think one of the best tools that a smart brokerage does is we've got data, but it's useless, right? I mean, we're starving for business, but we have tons of data. You actually are using integration to streamline. And I think more importantly, especially in this day and age where we need social proof, showing your seller what you're doing. I think that's just brilliant. Amazing. It's just an amazing tool. And I want to thank you for sharing so many tactical activities and initiatives that our listeners can use. Thank you so much, Tony. It's informative content as we learn how these consumers want to consume information and how it helps the listing market, which of course dominates because for every listing we get a site and a half generated for leads. And I think that's just brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So this slide is actually showing some numbers, and Alyssa can talk through this a little bit as well. But when you just look at the actual data that flows through buy side, we have over 8,000 inquiries for potential seller leads that come through our websites, and that translates into potentially 1,500 plus listings, and a large number in terms of volume. So honestly, I was telling Alyssa when she asked me to consider doing this, I almost didn't want to do it because I didn't want the rest of you to know about buy side.
Right.
Okay, that's so much for sharing.
There you go.
So good. So all of you outside of Atlanta, go do your thing. But anybody in Atlanta can just go ahead and hang up.
Yeah, settle down. Yeah, settle down. Well, still, here's the thing. Everybody has access to gyms and diets. Doesn't mean they're going to implement it. So thank you very much for showing us how matching action with focus really works. Thank you so much. There's a lot there, so I know you're going to want to go back when this is recorded. And if you're just joining us, this is Terry Murphy with RISMedia on buy side as a part of the tools, and Mark Johnson, who's the Chief Operating Officer for JP and Associate Realtors, is joining us right now. They're right in Frisco, Texas, right outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And you and I spoke at length, Mark, and you talked about being accountable for the culture and the operation and the operations for this large firm. And you've been growing. Talk to us a little bit about, because you said this several times during our pre-interview, productivity standards and our service-based culture. Now, that is not just verbiage. There is some real meat to that. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, there's some real meat to that. When JP founded the company over 7 years ago and was on an airplane and wrote the vision for the company basically on a barf bag in the airplane, which we have framed in his office. You know, it started with productivity and service, and then a business model that flowed from that. So there's two words that mean a lot for us, because we believe, JP believes when he founded the company, that a productive agent serves the consumer and delivers the best value to the consumer. Now, to us, service means two things. It means service, obviously, we have a slogan called Exceeding Expectations, and every month we have an Exceeding Expectations award that goes out to those listing agents and buyer's agents who exceed expectations with their consumers. But service also means to us giving back to our communities, because everyone in our JPAR family believes, you know, you can earn this amazing living and have this amazing opportunity in real estate. But if we can't give back to our communities and support our communities, you know, what's it worth? So we do a lot of that. So productive agents to us are in the best position to deliver value to the consumer. We do over 100 trainings a month, many of them focused on listing and listing process. And that's resulted in our days on market being 26 days on market, one of the fastest, quickest days on market of homes sold of any of brokerage firms in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So pretty exciting for us. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but if you've ever had to keep a house straightened up for longer than 26 days, you know, you're willing to give it away. That'll make you crazy. Well, you also have very high standards for how you hire. I found that to be particularly interesting and very, very a joyful thing to know. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, we do. You know, as a full service brokerage with a transaction fee model, with, you know, and a productivity standard and a service-based culture, we really don't want to build a brokerage, you know, that's really just for anybody. We have a full-time real estate requirement. So part-time agents don't have an opportunity within JP and Associates Realtors. A full-time realtor who can produce 6 or more transactions a year is the minimum standard to join the family. And so that creates a culture of lifelong learning, people who want to be lifelong learners, people who want to produce, people who want to, you know, double, triple their current state. And that's a really fun culture to be part of.
Oh, it would totally be. And I know that part of your culture is that it's not just a one and done. They have to continually meet that minimum, or they're released to work for someone else. Would that be accurate?
We review production on a quarterly basis. And of course, we have many training opportunities. Either we have a full-on mentorship program who can help guide them on how to earn and service listings at an exceptional level. We have team leaders who are always growing, expanding, and hiring folks. So we have a number of opportunities for those who might be struggling with their production to get back on track. You know, I was hearing earlier, you know, there's a number of amazing things that we're doing to become a dominant listing broker in the market. That is a new strategy for us as we move into our 7th year.
And why don't you just share with us a little bit about some of your trainings? I know when I spoke with Tony that, you know, that they do, but you had some very specific training and how you've integrated some of the internal options that the company has with client relationship management and marketing.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've done is we're a strategic partner with OpCity, and OpCity, it's pretty amazing. When a lead comes in from any of our lead sources, it's pretty much guaranteed that that lead is going to be contacted within 2 minutes or less. In many cases, it's within a minute or less. So when someone's filling out a form on any of our websites about a listing, we can pretty much guarantee someone's going to be talking to them within a minute to 2 minutes. That's a pretty phenomenal standard, and one that has served us well in making sure the consumer is best served and those leads are properly taken care of. So we do a lot of training around proper scripting, and everyone's probably familiar with LP Mama and some of the scripting around that. So we do a lot of training on that, but we also use OpCity as basically the standard for response times.
Yeah, you do. You did mention that, and that is phenomenal. I think that's just amazing. You talk a little bit about how the brokerage answers the questions, because every seller, first thing you always have to deal with is what kind of price do you have before they even know the marketing, and then we've always had to somehow prove that we have people that we've worked with. The usual line was, well, my job is to get it marketed for those buyers that are out there, and now you really have ways to drive specific data and relevance to that. Do you want to go into that? Because this is the slide I believe that Alyssa was talking about.
Yeah, so what we love so much about Buy-Side, and we're babies, unlike Tony and Dan Forsman's group, we're just getting started with Buy-Side, and we absolutely love it. And we are capturing quite a bit of leads through the home valuation model, and our agents are just loving it and giving them multiple opportunities to prospect using that tool. So it does leverage our ability to answer what's my home worth and do we have buyers for it, and we can answer those two questions now much better than we could before using the Buy-Side platform.
Yeah, that estimated home value, when Tony was on, he spoke about there's this choice of three, which I think is interesting because we know that there's three ways to look at the property value. And this has got to be a great tool that really keeps the seller engaged. Would you agree with that?
It does. It keeps the seller engaged, but it's also a training opportunity because the consumer is confused and sometimes the agent is confused. The purpose of having the three values is to demonstrate the continued value of the local real estate professional. Yeah, we can automate these values like you've seen here. This one has three different values. I think there's one from Zillow, and 566, 568, and 608. Well, the consumer looks at that and says, well, what's it really worth? Click here to find out. The real estate professional has to come in now and have enough knowledge to know how these valuations come up, and then to show through their market expertise what the true value is in their marketplace. And that's what we're loving, because it demonstrates the local expertise of a local real estate professional who understands the hyper-local market.
Those are words that warm my heart, hyper-local. When you really study it, it is hyper-local, and a really top professional has walked through those homes. I mean, you can do all kinds of videos, but if you walk through that home and you have a totally different experience that involves other senses, you realize that cannot be translated, and that definitely has an impact on selling faster or for more money.
Yeah, for sure. I do a weekly video series called Success from Scratch on jpar.net/blog, and when you see any of our top performing listing agents, there's a common trait, and they are all hyper local experts.
Okay, let's talk about that for just a second, because that is, the more we study consumer engagement, the more we understand that it needs to be extremely and very fastidiously hyper-local, because they don't really care what's happening in something as big as, like as an example, Atlanta, when they live in Cumming, right? Because that's going to be slightly different. And the same thing with Dallas and Fort Worth. So when you say you're an expert, and I ask this question, what does that mean? That means you've got to be like stone cold on so many of the turnovers loan to value ratios, loan to list, the listing value to what it's sold. You really have to be able to quick speak that. And I really would love for you all to chime in on how you are bringing your agents to understand that they can't be ambiguous about that. They have to be real experts, and they've had to walk it. They've got to know what's going on. They've got to know about the traffic. They've got to know about when school lets out, how that impacts a certain intersection. They need to know what the internet cannot give them, which increases their value. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. And in the market, the market speaks with its dollars. So the agents who master this are winning, and the agents who aren't are losing. The consumer today expects their real estate professional to know everything about their neighborhood. Why they should, what are the advantages of this neighborhood over that neighborhood? If you go online and look at a lot of the questions the potential buyers are asking on some of these sites, it's like, well, I'm thinking about, Stonebriar Village versus this. And it's amazing to see the consumers that they're interacting. And our best agents are in tune with that and know appropriately how to position the various neighborhoods. It almost starts back to what Tony said, and we use a very similar process. We have a multi-step process where the agent assesses the consumer's needs, they understand those needs, and then they do a gap analysis. Here's the neighborhoods and the things that fit that particular need of what they're looking for. They close that gap and negotiate and close.
Oh, this just makes me excited. So on this particular slide, we talked about where the buyers are coming from, and it's a buyer heat map.
Yes.
And do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah. So what's amazing around this technology is the agent is now equipped when they're on the listing presentation to actually show where these potential buyers are searching for, where the hot spots are. And we absolutely love this. And it can get even deeper as the technology grows.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it sounds to me like the platform will morph as the consumer is now trained to look for more specificity in where they're buying, and they are. Especially if you look at the younger buyers, they're looking at lifestyle, which is going to have to support just where the actual real estate is. Is there one other point that you'd like to, before we go to questions and answers and getting some other information in here? Because I know that you're newer at this, but it's been a huge impact. How did your agents embrace this?
Well, we rolled out an entire broker one-stop shop system. So we rolled out a number of features for agents. So at first, quite frankly, they're overwhelmed. And many still are. They're digesting quite a few of the things we've provided to them in the last 12 months. But what's amazing about entrepreneurial CEO agents is they're quick to get on their feet and to understand which tools are going to make them money and which ones aren't. And buy side is one that is clearly in the forefront of our listing agents' minds. And it has been, we are in the infancy stages, but by this time next year, we will be experts in this new platform.
Yeah, I would imagine. Tony, did you have any resistance to another Johnny Whiz Bang that the company endorsed?
Not really. I think because we had done home value estimates for a long time before implementing buy side, it was a very natural thing for us to implement that side of it. But when they saw the real-time buyer data, the heat map, the buyer funnel, and featured by that's what they fell in love with very quickly. And the way adoption tends to happen in our world, and probably most, is that when you have some agents who start having some success, other agents pay attention. And we had some agents who were just lighting it up by printing off these buyer market analyses and taking them out into the marketplace. And that quickly caught fire and continues to grow and grow and grow in our company.
Well, and Mark, talk to us a little. I know you've got some verticals that you really are promoting within the company, and here's a couple that we discussed. Your community give back is specifically one of your close to your heart. Talk to us a little bit about these.
Yeah, so I think we're switching topics here more about our brokerage culture, and buy-side obviously fits into all of these networking groups we have. We have a luxury team, we have a team leader panel, we have a mentorship program, we have commercial, farm and land, relocation. All of those specialty divisions are learning and hearing about buy-side and many of the other tools we have on our BOSS system. But all of that glue comes around us giving back to our local communities, and so that's the glue that puts all this together for us.
And what does the acronym BOSS actually stand for?
So and we're missing an S. So it's the broker one-stop shop solution.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we have basically inside, I guess I could use an old term, inside our intranet, we have single sign-ons where the agents can have access to all of the tools within the brokerage with a single sign-on. Buy-side, SkySlope, KV Core, the full suite with all the training tools and backup to do that is inside the BOSS hub.
Okay, and talk to me a little bit about your mentorship program. What does that look like?
Yeah, so our mentorship program is wildly successful. We have 50 mentors at the moment who produce at minimum 20 transactions a year or better, and have been in the industry at least 5 years or more. And these mentors have amazing businesses. Many of them are team and team leaders themselves, who are natural teachers and leaders and want to give back because they want to pay it forward. Someone paid it forward for them to make an opportunity, and so they're spending their time, and they're compensated for that time through some commission reimbursement to help grow and help new agents coming into our brokerage win. On average, these folks are graduating with 3 deals, 3 transactions or more in a 5-month or less period. Wow.
Okay, so there's some support as you grow and as you ramp them on.
So
on your community.
As they ramp on, they've got their mentorship, and then as they come out into the full brokerage, then they have a number of networking, accountability groups, those types of things that they can plug into.
A lot of support there. Alyssa, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, thanks, Sarah. I was just going to jump in for one follow-up question with Mark. I was lucky enough to be there for your guys' Techapalooza event several months back, where you guys first announced buy-side, as well as a lot of the other technology tools that you guys offer. I personally was pretty blown away at the breadth of technology and tools and services that you guys offer at JP and Associates. Any kind of tactical advice or tips that you can share with the audience in terms of how you roll out and how you train on that many different tools? Personally, I've gotten to see how it's worked with buy-side, and I'm very impressed. I know you guys are early in the process, but already seeing lots of seller leads, and I think over 20 now signed listings. So doing a great job there. But any kind of tactical advice that you can provide on the rollout and the training process of all those tools?
Well, part of it, I believe, is our culture, and our culture supports. It's very collaborative, and we have a culture where all of our JPAR family is really in it to win it and to help others, and has a pay it forward and a abundance mentality. So first of all, everyone in the family is willing to help someone else out. So part of that culture is paying it forward, giving back, and helping someone out. And so that helps even as we do group trainings, where someone says, Mark, I don't get it. Can you help me? And it's just part of our culture that we each have each other's back, in a sense, even though in some ways we're competing against each other, right? So I think that's part of it. The other part of it is train, 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 and train, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them, tell them what you just told them, and tell them again, right? So repetition is a key component, and serving it up at a time that the agents can participate. So during this session right now, I think I heard Terry and others say, hey, we were recording this because we know, I think we have 1,000 or so folks on this line, but tonight, we may have 500 more listen to it on audio. So we record all of our trainings and we have them in a training library so people can re-watch them who were there live. And if they weren't there live, they can see it for the first time and watch them over and over and over and over and fast forward to one portion that they want to see. And so those recordings are a critical component, we believe, of providing value to the agent and helping build adoption.
Yeah, that seems to be, as we learn how people consume education, short bits, video is very, very important. And I was really happy to hear that both Tony and you, Mark, use video exclusively, because that is a real bridge for what you called the go-to. It's really celebrity authority. When someone sees you on video and they see you repeatedly, especially if you're doing a live feed from a Facebook open house or something on your community, which is one of the best places that social media can help us out. That really gives both credibility and transparency to what you really do as a company, and gives that culture a boost as well. Mm-hmm. We got some great information here. Alyssa, is there anything you think we've missed that we should ask before we go to questions and answers?
No, not at all. I think we've covered a ton of great insights from both Tony and from Mark. Mark, I can personally attest to what you guys are doing on video. I think within about 10 or 15 minutes of meeting you, we were on a Facebook Live with your manager, so you guys are absolutely killing it on that front. But no, just really appreciate all the insights, you guys. I think there's a lot of valuable content here.
Yeah, that was fun. I'd forgotten all about that. The minute Alyssa and I and JP, we signed the contract, I got my phone out and we did a Facebook Live to the entire brokerage.
Oh, that's awesome. Just so powerful. Yeah, that's great. Well, Chet, I haven't been monitoring the questions. Do we have anything specific?
I haven't seen any.
Okay, great. Well, one of the things that I know is that the people are going to have many more questions, Alyssa, and how would you like them to contact you?
Sure, they can find us on our website. It's www.getbyside.com, or they can reach us via email at sales@getbyside.com for any additional info. Also, I believe there'll be a question after the webinar here. If you guys would like to receive a free case study from Byside outlining some of the tactics that folks like Tony and Mark are using to generate new listings for their businesses, we're happy to send that out. So just go ahead and hit yes, and we'll get that out to you in the coming days.
Well, we always want to learn what successful people are doing. And Tony, I want to thank you for sharing such great, and you were so comprehensive about different initiatives and how it works, especially in math when everybody's pulling the boat in the same way. Thank you so much for sharing those.
My pleasure. Hope helps someone achieve their goals.
Well, here's the thing. We can always be role models, but somebody still has to pick it up and do it, right? And there are so many magnificent tools out there to create a better experience, create a higher and better, more professional experience for that consumer. Selling a house is not easy. There's lots of moving parts, especially depending on where you are. And for that reason, Workman Success is very dedicated to helping with some complementary things. They're giving away their ABCs of lead management. So many agents don't have a good system, and if you're not with a company that it has some of the tools we've spoken about today, this is a lead tracker that really works, getting so that you have that incubation process in place. The next one is how to get 86 transactions in 12 months with what we call your 50 top elite. I actually wrote the back end of that with a schedule on how you make a meaningful touch cold calling is just, to me, not so necessary if you know how to create value by reciprocity, especially using referrals. I am a DISC certified freak. I love DISC because it helps me bridge a gap if I'm speaking with someone and I see that our styles are markedly different. And we offer an improvement in how you communicate, whether it's both personally or professionally, by offering a 52-page DISC report, which is also with our compliments, and of course a copy of this presentation. All you have to do is go to Workman Success at the URL on the line here, and you are good to go. Well, I want to thank everybody. I especially want to thank you attendees for investing in yourself. It's pretty easy to say you're too busy, but when we actually make ourselves a priority, we know that we can advance our skill set by listening to people who are already getting it done. I remind you that this is being recorded. You can look for your link. Make sure that you avail yourself of these premiums that are being offered, and go to buyside, getbuyside.com. Is that correct, Elizabeth? I think that's what you said.
Yep.
So
getbuyside.com. Sorry, I was on mute there.
There you go. That's okay. We're on delay. I want everybody to go out there and make it your best day. Thanks so much for joining us. And stay tuned for another RISMedia webinar series coming up. Catch it in your email. Make it a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.